What did it do this week? Went back up. How come? Anybody have any ideas? Jake?
People speculated that ease of Syria tension was a little bit
Yeah, Putin drove the stock market up, right? Go figure how that's going to happen. But at least it eased some of the anxiety for a short period of time.
It's amazing what happens when you write an op-ed in the New York Times.
By the way, Al, do you believe any of this crap? No, I mean, there's always some analysis, right, on a minute-by-minute basis about why the stock market's going up or down. Do you actually think that's true?
The one that I really like, depending on which way it's going, is there were more buyers than sellers,
Yeah.
or there were more sellers than buyers. And sometimes when they can't make something up,
That's what they come out with.
but it's an individual decision, right? And how in the world would you know why, let's say 100,000 investors decided to sell some portion of 5,000 different stocks on one day or another? And somebody else decided to buy it.
And then you get some random explanation that Putin put out a...
Putin sends a letter to the
Yeah, I mean,
Times.
so now he moves the market. I mean, it sounds crazy to me. I'll give you an experience I had. I won't disclose the name of this person because he still lives in Salt Lake. So my first year as an auditor, right? I walk in and I'm like a week into my job, and what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to go in and you compare the income statement from one year to another, right? And I walk in and I go, well, how come net income went down this year, right? Give me kind of the high-level explanation. And he says, well, you know, we had some supplier difficulties, and you know, we were a little soft on, you know, we had some salesmen quit, and he gave me this great big explanation. So I go back and I said, all right, I'll document it because that's what you're supposed to do. And I look at it and I go, damn, net income actually went up this year. So what do you do, right? And so, you know, I'm a week out of school, and I go, oh, I'll just wait a week and maybe he'll forget, right? And so then I go back in a week later, I go, well, tell me why net income went up this year. And he goes, well, we had some really strong supplier negotiations. We had a few salesmen come through, and I'm going, this is a load of hooey, right? I mean, and I have the same feeling about the stock market. So help me out.
Well, and then it carries forward into the audit work papers, right? Because week one you documented what was down, and you turned around and documented what's up.
I was with Arthur Anderson. I had an eraser. And I had a shredder too.
So that's how you got to reconcile the company's checkbook and the eraser. Yeah, well, there's a whole cycle that goes on, right? And as we go through the semester, you'll watch the news cycle. And reporters have to write, and they have to have things to write about, and so they ask questions. And it's legendary if you are on the answering end of the phone that you're going to get one out of two questions are pretty ill-conceived or ill-informed questions. And so turnabout is fair play, right? So why is it raining? Oh, I think it's because there are clouds up there. It's cooled down. You know, you feed the beast is what goes on. And so I think there's a lot of that. So I would agree with Jim that you can very easily overgeneralize why something happened or not. And it's really the result of thousands of individual reasons, some of which have something to do with the company or the stock involved, and some of which really don't at all, right? So you've got to be so much invested in your fund, and you had somebody who was co-managing sell some stocks, and so you have got a buy list, and you've been waiting to get in as soon as you got sufficient liquidity. So today you got $100,000 and you jump in, Sean?
Maybe you were like the CEO of Best Buy going to sell something to his ex-wife.
There are all kinds of reasons out there. Margin calls hit, lots of things happen. How about the Treasury bond? 2.9, so how did it do this week? So yield went down. What happened to price?
Yeah.
Price went up. Okay. Apple. Anybody see what went on with Apple this week?
New phone.
New what? S&C, describe it.
Well, this, from what I understand, it's in the C made of like
Hard.
plastic, basically, and then the 5 is an upgrade. The 5S is an upgrade to 5.
So what was the stock market reaction?
Not happy.
All right, so
Anybody know how much?
5%.
5%. What's that translate to in Apple?
A lot of money.
A lot of money? I ran 35 billion from my little calculation.
Ooh.
You say that like it's nothing.
Taylor's a fan of plastic phones.
I am, I love them. All right, but look, I just went through what I think a lot of these reactions are led to believe. So let's sit back for a second, take the Apple situation, and see if we can formulate our own opinions. Because ultimately, that's part of this class is we want you to formulate your own opinions. That's why we spend the first half hour. All right. So first of all, we got to understand what you think the stock market was reacting to, right? So somebody articulate for me what you think the market was doing right there. Yeah.
I think the market was anticipating big wow, surprise us with something, do something that Steve Jobs did big and bold in the past. We've had plenty of leaks. We already know you're going to have fingerprinting. We already know you're going to do all these features. Give us something new. They'd already built in all of the features.
Okay, so stop for a second there, right? And let's make sure we understand the basic mechanism of the stock market. There are already leaks. So this information was already there. So why wasn't that already priced into the stock? Or what was priced into the stock? Right? To me, right, if you've already got that information, why did it move? We knew they were coming out with a cheap phone. We knew it had all these features on it. So why did the stock move?
I think in general it's because the price point that they went for the 5C wasn't what they expected. I think a lot of people were anticipating that Apple was going to come in and release a true low-cost phone that was going to allow them to increase market share, especially in developing countries that can't afford the current iPhone. And so when they announced the price point of $99, I think a lot of analysts thought that it was still too expensive and that in the long run it's not going to increase their market share in the developing world for that reason.
All right, so what you're saying is the price 2 days ago before the announcement had some element of surprise into it, and your hypothesis is it's the price, right? And so the trade-off then was lower price, larger market share, right? Okay, so that's one hypothesis. Yeah.
But it's not, it's okay, so it's $99 in the United States. It's 5,000 yuan in China, which is actually more than you can sell a kidney for in China. So,
More than you can sell a kidney for in China?
according to the New York Times. But it's actually, it translates to about $700 American dollars.
$700 in China.
In China.
But we already know they're ripping us off anyway, and they all got iPhones, right? So does it matter over there?
Well, it's
No,
just
I'm
that
serious.
when you're entering that market, you would think you would want something people can afford, but as it turns out, you can't even sell your organs for that much.
Okay, so all right, so there you go. Hypothesis. Give me another hypothesis.
I think it's because they didn't expand their carrier base. When the iPhone was released, they didn't announce any new carriers, especially in China, and they just got regulatory approval on the iPhone 5C. And then the other thing is that the regulatory approval, they still can't sell it yet, right? They've gotten approval, but they can't sell it. They still have more hurdles to clear.
Okay, but here's a question. Did everyone know that already?
I don't think they did because they didn't know anything about the 5. They knew that the 5C was coming.
Okay.
They didn't know what the status of it was legally.
Okay.
And you
All
can't,
right.
and they can't sell it in China yet.
Okay. Another hypothesis. Yeah.
I think even with leaks, there's a hope that there's something that didn't get leaked that will still wow people. And I don't think that things were different enough. And all that Apple was built on, the phrase be different, and it just didn't seem too different. So I think people were like, oh, this isn't really going to change much. So, that's really what we turn to Apple for innovation, new and exciting products, and there's no wow factor, so it's.
All right, but let's break that apart. At some point, we're gonna have to evaluate these, so let me push you on this one. They said they were gonna announce a phone. They announced a phone. What? It's a phone. What kind of wow do you want? It walks. It talks. You can click it. I don't know. What kind of wow? What kind of wow would produce? What kind of wow would produce $30 billion? $30 billion? You're saying wow, wow is worth $35 billion.
So the reason I don't currently work for Apple on their R&D team is because I don't know. $30 billion product.
No, but come on, you gotta, Skip, I'm gonna push you. You gotta be a little, we gotta push this, right? $35 billion is a lot of money. And so, wow has gotta have some kind of magnitude.
So Taylor, if it linked to your Hummer and had an automatic control system, and you could program in your iPhone in your 1998 Hummer, would then drive over to the university and pick you up to take you back home, that would be, wow, Taylor's got his Hummer coming to pick him up.
Google's working on it.
Would that wow you?
It would, actually.
You would be the only kid in the country, right?
That's
You would
true.
have your self-propelled Hummer
I
come to
wouldn't,
pick you
I
up
wouldn't spend
on
$35
demand.
billion, but I'd probably hit a few students on the way out.
Not on purpose, right?
No, probably would happen. All right. No, just let me, I mean, I know you've got a point, but I guess what I'm trying to say is we jump to conclusions and hypotheses quickly, right? And you got to develop a sense for magnitude here, right? If you're going to be able to make some judgments about whether you're going to buy or sell stocks. This is one of them I think you have to think a little bit more about. All right, what would wow look like, and is there actually anything? Because at some point you got to start ticking off these hypotheses. Jace.
Well, one thing that Apple's struggled with lately, especially with cell phones, and Samsung has started to grab more market shares, because Samsung is actually listening to consumers and giving them what they want, bigger phones. They're doing all kinds of things that they listen to their customers. Apple is continuing to stay with, we're going to kind of do what we want and not listen as much to what our consumers want, and they're losing people because of that. People are getting impatient with them.
Do you think that's what made this stock drop $35 billion, that they weren't listening?
A little bit, that goes along with the wow factor though. With the wow, because people are expecting more from Apple like they're getting from other phone carriers. And so instead of going to Apple now, they're going to be more easily willing to go to another brand.
Okay.
Well, I think it represents a shift in strategy. I mean, they've always been it wasn't a product differentiator. They've always had these high-end items. Now they're kind of having a low-cost product. And Apple's always been able to charge a premium because they've had these nicer products. Since they're kind of going in, I mean, it's not good. And with the $99 price point, they've already told Walmart that Walmart can discount it to $79. And offering a $20 discount on a phone that hasn't even been released.
Okay, so this one I actually want to explore a little bit. What, if they're changing strategy, what are the ramifications of this changing strategy? All right. And by the way, I got a couple hypotheses here, right? Okay, so up here, I'm gonna make a generalization. Here's my hypothesis, right? We got a set of explanations up here. Are these long-term or short-term? So I didn't sign a carrier this week. Can I correct it next week?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So I launched the wrong phone. Can I correct it in 6 months? I'm shifting strategy. Can I correct that in 6 months? No. So this is one, right? Substantially to me, this hypothesis is very different than these other two, and potentially has a very different impact on value. So this one I want to talk about for a second. What do you think? What do you think is actually going to happen? What are the ramifications?
Well, when you think of Apple, you think of kind of an elite brand like the iMac. You have to spend so much more money on the PC.
Mm-hmm.
So when they introduce something that's low cost, it totally makes you think differently about it.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I
this
think
is
they're
good.
good.
Now let's develop this a little bit more. So I got this line of products that are high end. This generalizes to a lot of places, right? Really high end. And what do they get for that? You put a computer from Dell or somebody else with similar speed, similar whatever, up against Apple, how much more are you paying?
$100.
You're paying a lot, right? And so then now all of a sudden down here, they're coming out with a plastic phone. What's that going to do to everything up here?
Dilute brand.
So it potentially dilutes the value, right? And you see this actually all the time in markets, right? A shift in strategy. I'm going to move down market. I had one of the funniest conversations I think I've ever had with a really, really high-end luxury brand. Now I can't think of which brand it was exactly. I'm not sure I'm supposed to disclose it, so I got to go through my NDAs here in my head. It was a really high-end Italian luxury brand. Long story short, the lowest end watch in their line was at $100,000. Right, 100 grand. And they came in to this set of companies. Tiffany's was there, right, and Timex was there, and they said, and they were sharing problems. And this company said, we can't decide if we want to have a more democratic watch or not. Meaning, I want to know if I should have an entry price watch at $80,000. And everybody in the room busted up, right? Except for Tiffany's. And they said, no, this is serious, right? This could destroy their entire brand because, right, at this high end, you got this high end up here, you got the low end down here. Sure, here's where the volume is, right? But there's going to be an effect. It's going to be huge, right? It could potentially, all that volume that they've got, it could actually take, who knows, 10, 15% off of the price that they're actually able to charge because they're now seen as a consumer electronics company. Yeah?
But the iPhone 5C isn't different. It's the same iPhone 5 that they're using now. It's the same internals, it's the same guts. The only difference is that they've changed the case to a polycarbonate back because people in China buy things with color. So it's not really a shift in strategy. They're just making it appeal to a broader market.
You're completely wrong. You're missing the one key. What price is it?
$99.
All right. It cannibalizes everything up.
But
right?
Apple's always had the lowest, best, better, or low, better, best.
They never had $99.
Yeah, they have.
They never had $99.
They have it right now. I can go out and get an iPhone for $99.
How many years old is it?
It's 1 year. It's
For it.
one rather behind.
Before it.
There you go, right? They're cheapening it out. I think that's the fear. They're cheapening it out, right? So, over here.
I was just gonna say, like, the cheaper price point is going to cannibalize for the product. I mean, if I want an iPhone, I'm not going to go drop $200 so I can get the same phone for $100 now. Those are the cases you can't like.
Yeah. All right.
So I'm going to take the other side of this.
All right, go ahead.
So since 1928, we have never had the wealth disparity in this country that we have right now. Apple has been inventing this product, has saturated the market. How many people here want an iPhone and don't have one? That's what I thought. So, but there is this whole mass of people who look at it and say, $299 for an iPhone? You gotta be kidding me.
I'd rather have a kidney.
Exactly. A new one. What happens when they can get it for $99 and it hasn't even gone on sale yet? And they can get it in pink. So, next week is Honey Boo Boo going to be on the iPhone? just a counterpoint that maybe at some point in time you are so successful with your strategy that it's time to get off of one horse and add another horse.
Well, Al, that may be true. You just cost me $35 billion in market cap, is that right?
That's just how many shareholders on that day out of how much overall. And besides, we got all this cash. What am I going to do with it if I don't open up a new line and start attracting new customers?
Al, I think you could have done something a little more in line with the strategy we got here, though, right? Don't you?
Steve's dead.
You guys are gonna be
He made a lot of money going simple, and now we're going to go back the other way, and we'll just complicate it a little bit. In a couple of years, we'll send in Apple Catalog. you can pick it out in the Apple Cal. Actually, we'll put it online for you.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go start looking for the new Steve Jobs.
I think I missed the wow factor. What do you think?
No, you did well. Good argument.
But Gina, what do you think?
Well, what about, well, you guys are all talking about the outside. What about iOS 7, the inside? The
Yeah,
software.
that's pretty awesome.
The software redesign.
Sean cares about it, and somebody else,
I have it.
I
and
think.
I mean,
You know,
it's,
I really don't care. I just wanna kinda use the phone and I look at movies on the weekends and, you know, and so what?
She obviously reads Walter Mossberg in the journal on the weekends, following technology. Sean, you do too.
At the low end of the market, we just want an Apple, right? It's not like it like, dude.
I want a quack in it.
It's a new iOS, right?
people forget that Steve Jobs was not involved as much in the last 3 years of his life because he was on his deathbed. This is the same product group that's been designing the iPhone and iOS, minus Scott Forstall, who was fired, but it's nothing really different than it was before. It's no different than the 3G because it's the same stuff, and they make it sound like this is gonna be Apple's death nail, but it's not.
It is different.
Go ahead, right here, Kevin.
I'm just gonna throw something in that I think is relevant in this discussion. First of all, these discussions that we're having has a lot of personal significance, as you will see in our presentation as well. But I did read an article yesterday that was saying that a cell phone is no longer considered a luxury. They have taken a poll and it's a necessity. And 50% of the people that have cell phones have an iPhone. So I thought that was interesting because it does kind of lend credence to the idea that the cell phone is rapidly becoming more commoditized. So,
Thank you. Well, let's move on. Let me just summarize, right? What we're trying to do in here, by the way, I don't know if I believed any of the arguments I just made. Honestly, most of the time, Al and I will find us, I think we do this on purpose, don't we? We find ourselves on opposite sides just so that you guys can see, hopefully, what both sides are. Al usually wins the debates because he's more thoughtful than I am. And I'm just going for the wow factor for the most part. But my point with doing this is I think what we want you to develop is a much more sophisticated reaction to these news articles, especially if you think someday you're going to make money on it, right? And today, to me, the thing that struck me was, as I read the examples, was I couldn't distinguish between what's just kind of a temporary thing versus maybe a long-term shift in strategy. And to me, if I were running a valuation model on this company, I would have, you know, my interpretation of what's going to happen would have a very different view on how I would have viewed the stock price. So we better hurry though. Can we just give them the answers to the last few and then get Kevin up here?
Well, I think there's only one more left.
Oh, good.
And it's number 4. And